Hello, everyone. This is Mark Fiquez, the Ballpark Hunter, and you're listening to the Ballpark Hunter podcast. With me today is a man of many different hats. He is the young professor. I'm the Ballpark Hunter. He is the young professor. You don't need to know our first names. How about that? So he
They're
is
not important. Nobody
no,
pays to see those guys.
no. Yes, he is a professional announcer and host. He is the in-game host for the Daytona Tortugas, and he is the Savannah Banana announcer. So he is connected with two ball clubs, and we're going to talk to him about both ball clubs and maybe some other things tonight. So welcome to the show.
Good to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I guess we could begin with let's begin with Daytona. I how long how did you become the in-game host with them, and or how did you get started in this business? Maybe it had nothing to do with baseball.
It didn't have anything to do with baseball, not originally.
Mhm.
Baseball has just kind of where it has taken me, which is good because it of all the team sports out there, baseball happens to be my favorite among them.
Nice.
But I actually started in combat sports, specifically in professional wrestling,
Okay.
almost 5 years ago, and I started doing that in the Daytona Beach area. And as I started doing more in combat sports, I then got an opportunity to work in arena football. I worked with
Okay.
the Jacksonville Sharks for 2 years. I was their on-field host for a couple of seasons, and the general manager of the Daytona Tortugas, Jim Jaworski, is a friend of mine, and Jim and I met, gosh, about 12 years ago when I first moved here to Florida. And he was just in ticket sales, and I was working in event management. And we've managed to keep up over the years as our careers intertwined. When I was an actual college professor, I used to bring my students to the ballpark, and Jim would kind of arrange things for me to meet with different staff members and show them some things, some real world examples of how sports work. And he watched what I was doing in wrestling and combat sports and football. And as Major League Baseball was getting ready to do that major reshuffle a few years ago when they were reorganizing the minor league system and consolidating it, Daytona was one of those teams that was on the bubble of potentially being eliminated from that equation. And we were trying to do all that we could to rally and show what a special ballpark we have. We have the oldest active ballpark in minor league baseball, even still. And so Jim actually reached out to me to see if I wanted to come fill that role for the Tortugas. And as we were getting ready to do it, that's when COVID happened. And so that season didn't happen, but the Tortugas managed to stick around in the minor league system. So I've managed to work 2 years now in that role, in that capacity with the Tortugas.
Yeah, that was a really scary time for a lot of teams. You didn't know if you had seen your last game, and then COVID comes, and yeah, you already saw your last game. But yeah, it's glad that Daytona stuck around and was able to continue as an affiliated ball club. Daytona, you're doing the Tortugas in-game host. I've seen these guys in action. You have that voice. You just have that voice of magic. It's like, oh, this guy would sound perfect. I always call it a radio voice. I used to do radio back in the day, and I never had a radio voice, but you definitely have that voice that can do voiceovers for commercials, or you could probably narrate a history program or a sports highlight reel. What are some of your duties in Daytona when it comes to a game? Do you wear anything flashy? You got something colorful on today? Is that similar?
That's my whole shtick, if you will.
Okay.
If I'm talking wrestling, that's the gimmick, brother. It's a lot of bright, colorful stuff, and no repeats, not in a single season either. That's another little special feature. I It's not something I started doing when I first started, at least in combat sports, but once the outfits started getting a little flashier and adding a little bit of personality to just the visual presentation to go with the actual performance of the duties, I started getting booked a lot more. And I think that's what started to take off. So that was one of the things, one of the reasons they actually brought me into the Tortugas. So I show up in something crazy every single night,
Hmm.
and it's different every game of the season. And we have a lot of fun and engage in multiple shenanigans throughout the course of an evening.
Yeah. And what are typical crowds like? I've been to Jackie Robinson Ballpark. It's been quite some time. But being that's a tourist destination for a lot of people, do you get big crowds, or do you have to have these certain type of promotions to attract the audience?
We actually, I mean, I can only really speak to these last two seasons, right? So I remember coming as a fan, and I remember especially when the rebrand happened back in 2015. It seemed like they had a lot of buzz when the Tortugas
Cool.
first took over from the then Daytona Cubs.
That's
And
right.
so there were a lot of fans then. But, we started last year, which was the COVID year, and we would average, I want to say, probably around 1,000 fans a game, maybe 900 if I'm being more accurate. I don't
Okay.
know for sure. But I know this past season we did exceptionally better. And we were probably averaging somewhere around 12 to 1,300 fans a game. And our ballpark only seats about 4,000. It's, would we have liked to see more? Of course, but we had a few games where we were rocking and rolling around 3,000 fans. We had Jacob DeGrom do a rehab start in Daytona,
Mhm.
which is special because he's from that area. He's from like two towns over and grew up in the Daytona Beach area. So we had a sold out house that night. And
Mhm.
so we've had some good fan engagement this summer in particular, especially on weeknights, believe it or not. And that's we were one of the strongest in our entire Florida State League. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we were drawing more fans out than all the other teams in the Florida State League combined most nights.
So why do you think that was Tuesdays and Wednesdays? Because those are not popular nights, or was that some kind of promotion taking place?
No, I mean, we have some promotions. I mean, on Tuesday nights, we're always our Silver Slugger nights. So we have that older contingency of fans, which
Okay.
if
Yeah.
folks following at home, it's Florida. We there's quite a bit of a contingency of that. But the other cities have it too. Um, I like to think that I think the word got out this year how much more fun we were having because we really doubled down on that. We're a small team, we're a small organization. We don't have the same kind of funding. We don't have all the bells and whistles that a lot of other teams do. So it kind of forced us from an entertainment perspective to get more creative. And I dare say I would put our little squad this past year up against just about anybody. If you gave us more of a budget, we could have really crushed it. But we had
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
fun
Yes.
putting things together and engaging as many fans as we could every night. And people, I think, liked coming. And I think the shorter games actually helped with that this summer, too.
Oh no, you're definitely right. If people like coming out, they're definitely gonna let people know. Now you mentioned Jacob DeGrom. I'm a big Mets fan, so Jake's
As am
one.
I. So I'm feeling your
Yeah,
pain right now.
yeah. Jake's one of my favorites. I think I'm worried about whether he's going to come back or not. I cannot think of Jake wearing any other uniform but a New York Mets uniform. Did you get a chance to talk to him?
I did not get a chance to
Oh,
talk to him directly, but I got to introduce him in front of a sold out house,
there
which
you
is,
go.
not something we do for other teams. But I was told from a few different sources, people on the field that said he was, watching what was going on when we were introducing him and he was smiling and yucking it up and having a good time. So I like to think that we did a good job kind of rolling out the green carpet for him for his
Yes.
homecoming there in Volusia County.
Yeah. Now, uh, you also mentioned that you work with the Bananas. So do you do that at the same time during the season? You work for both clubs, or
Yeah, this was a crazy year for me for
how do you pull
sure.
that off? That sounds like a lot to do.
Well, first of all, I mean, the Bananas are only about 3 hours away from me,
Okay.
which is not a terrible hike, especially, starting in wrestling in the way that I have. I mean, you go on the weekends, you're hitting the
Okay.
road and
All
you're
right. So
driving a few hours. So I'm not, a stranger to that practice. And so a 3 hour shot really isn't bad. That I can do that in one night, and I have before. But I
all right.
primarily work with them as part of the Banana Ball team, as part of the Premier
Okay.
League World Tour. So I went on the entire World Tour with them, and most of those all happened prior to the actual minor league baseball season.
Okay.
So there wasn't much conflict. There were a couple of dates where I had to kind of skip out on one or the other. I missed a weekend in Savannah for opening weekend with the Tortugas, and I missed 4 or 5 games with the Tortugas to do some work with the Bananas. But just a good job, just trying to
Yeah.
balance it all. And it was a lot of fun along the way, too.
Yeah, and both clubs don't mind that. There's no animosity, like, hey, you only work for us, and that's I can't imagine there is, but I figured I'd just ask that
No,
question. Yeah, because there was a god this several years ago. I was writing for two websites, and I'm not gonna. I mean, one was Our Sports Central, the other one was Ballpark Digest, and one of the guys got mad because I was writing for two websites and not just theirs. And I just thought to myself, I said, "What? I didn't sign a contract with you to tell me
right.
that I'm only going to write for you. If that's the case, let me know and we can hash something out." But when you're a freelance writer, you write for anybody who pays you. That's kind of how that works. So I was just kind of
Yeah, I
shocked
mean,
that that got brought up to me, and just it still has me scratching my head all these years later. But I moved on.
I'm
I would
not.
say.
I've seen it.
Okay.
In pro wrestling that happens a lot. Even in the independent, like you're getting a hot dog and a handshake, and guys are getting angry with you for working for some other company that they've got heat with, brother. And
Okay.
you're like, I'm just trying to get reps. I'm just trying to do good
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean, I'm for
exactly.
sale. If you want to pay my salary every month, I will work for
Oh
you
yeah. Yeah.
and you alone.
That's how I looked at it. If you want to pay me for writing articles or contributing to the website, let me know. I'll do
Sure,
it. But
we can solve it. Right.
we can solve it that way. And unfortunately, things just kind of went downhill from there. So you mentioned how you worked for the Jacksonville Sharks. That's kind of how I got my foot into the door writing for the websites. I wrote for Our Sports Central. I'm sorry, I wrote for Arena Fan. I was covering the New Jersey Gladiators back in 2001. So I remember I it was a free gig. You did it because I was still in school trying to get some attention, trying to get my name out there. But that's how I started doing all this media coverage and getting media passes and interviewing players and just going out to the game and being a reporter. It was all because of arena football. And I miss those days. I miss arena football. I know there's indoor football teams out there. I know the Jacksonville Sharks are still playing in the National Arena League, but
Yes.
do you still follow the Sharks? I mean, what was your take on arena football? Are you shocked that it folded? Do you miss it?
So I by the time I got in, the Arena Football League had gone away
So they gone
almost
away.
entirely. I think they folded completely the first year I was there, but we were already out of it. We were in the National
Okay.
Arena League
Yeah,
already,
National Arena League.
and several of those franchises had kind of gravitated to
Yeah.
the National Arena League. And I can't speak for all of the other franchises, but Jacksonville was one of the strongest fan bases and present. I mean, we played in the arena. We played in the Veterans, ViStar Memorial Arena.
Mm.
We had, some nights 10,000 fans in the
That's great.
arena. So it was really an unbelievable experience. There were things I liked, things I didn't like, but it was so important for me early on to get that opportunity to do that, and it's just opened so many doors. So I do still follow and keep up with those guys. Just it's something I've gravitated away from, just schedule and money wise.
Mhm.
It was something that I was better suited to kind of look at other opportunities.
Yeah, no, you're right. I loved arena football, but I was more of a baseball guy. So when I had the chance to just write about baseball and baseball solely, I still write about other sports. I do reviews, but when it comes, to baseball, when I'm doing a podcast, yeah, baseball's my jam. That's what I like to talk about. So that's the
I
thing
got
when
to
I
tell
put
you though, I miss the air conditioning as a guy that wears
oh
suits
yeah,
all summer
yes,
long for
that
the
is
teams I
nice.
work for. I do miss that frigid arena that I used to work in
That
by
that
comparison.
That is, I remember being in Orlando, 1991, when the Orlando Predators first debuted, and they didn't sell out the first game, but they sold out their next game. And then I went to Tampa Bay, and they had 22,000 people at the what was known as the Suncoast Dome back then. And I'm like, my goodness, 22,000 people at an arena football game. And you're right. It was like a 2.5 hour game. It was air conditioned. They had all these wacky promotions going on, cheerleaders, Hooter girls, mascots. Orlando had some renegade, evil looking mascot coming down on a rope from the top of the roof. They brought out caged panthers because they were honoring some former football team that had played there in 1966. It was just it was a circus and a spectacle. Laser light show, welcome to the jungle. Yeah. Zubaz pants. I don't know if you
Yeah,
remember
you can't
Zubaz.
beat that, man.
Yeah.
That's a party.
And,
That's
and, I, and I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I was about 14 at the time. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I love it. I want an arena football team in New Jersey because that's where I lived. We would visit Florida during the summer. But by the
so
time
I
it,
grew up in Jersey too. I
oh,
did.
really?
Yes. So I don't remember. I mean, I guess I remember the Philly team because I remember always seeing stuff about Bon Jovi.
Yeah, the
But
soul.
yeah, the Philadelphia Soul. I don't remember the New Jersey. Where'd they play?
They played up at the Meadowlands.
Did they really? So right there, I grew up in Rahway, so I'm like
You
15, 20 minutes
wait,
from the
wait, wait.
Meadowlands.
You grew up in I grew up in Colonia.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Holy cow! Just one town away.
Wow. In fact, whenever somebody from Indiana would call my house, it said Rawway on the phone
Really?
bill. Yeah, and they never knew how to say what is this town that you live in? I go, it's Rawway. Yeah, Rawway. You can't get. I mean, I just had an interview with a gentleman the other day from Fanwood.
Okay.
I did, and
Well, those are
I,
all nicer. All of you guys have
yeah.
lived in nicer towns than I did. Rahway, when I lived there, was not
Oh
anything
yeah, yeah,
meant
Rawway.
to write about.
Yeah, that's where you would park if you didn't go to Metro Park to park your car to go to New York on the train. You went to Rawway. But
Right.
then Rawway had like a little different schedule compared to Metro Park. So wow, you grew. How long did you live in Rawway for?
My Up until I was 22 years old. So I grew up there my entire life, and then I graduated. I went to school in South Jersey, so I went to Rowan University.
Okay, yeah, he went. This
Got
guy went to Rowan too.
Yep, got my
Wow,
bachelor's degree, and then I moved to Southern Illinois for 2 years. I was right outside of St. Louis, so I saw a lot of Cardinals games out there.
nice,
A lot like when Pujols was crushing home runs in the
nice.
bleachers, right, like a row behind me every night. And then moved to Florida right after that, and that's kind of
Yeah,
where the sports journey really began.
yeah, and he was still crushing home runs up until a few weeks ago. It's
Dude, I couldn't believe that.
yeah, that's great because he's a little bit older than me, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit older than him, and I'm just like, oh, guys my age are still playing baseball, but a lot of them are retiring. So everybody
Maybe he'll
plays.
come play with the Bananas next year. That seems to be the thing that all these retired guys are doing.
That's what I'm kind of thinking about because they are now a professional team,
Yep.
and what is stopping them from getting a guy like Albert Pujols? I don't know if he would command big money. I don't know how much they could pay him, but they could definitely
I don't
get
know that
some.
any of these guys are looking for money. I'll be
Yeah,
honest. I don't know the business end of it at all.
yeah,
I show up, I perform, I've got the stuff, where they want me. I've got an idea and I go do my part. But, we got to work with Jake Peavy. We
yeah,
got to work with Johnny Gomes. We got to work with Jonathan Papelbon. Those are
yeah.
all guys I got to mix it up with. And I don't know what money there was. I don't know that there was money. The impression I got just from listening to these guys and just seeing them talk and the way they interacted with us and with fans was I think they were just so happy to be a part of something like this. And I
Really.
could hear, guys who have held, that have World Series rings and they're saying this is the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. Maybe the World Series game, whatever, but to hear them say that about what we're doing in Savannah, and you think about the heights that they have gone to. These guys have action figures made of them. Like
Oh yeah.
this is the highest of the high, and they can't wait to come put on a kilt and come put on these goofy tutus and yellow uniforms and dance with these guys and have fun with fans because they've never gotten to do that before. And so I think it's given these guys who are athletic enough to do something competitively, but not the grind of Major League Baseball, but still have that
Okay.
love for the game to come out, play, and have an absolute blast doing it, like they did probably when they were little kids. And that's what the Bananas, I think, are doing for these guys.
Yeah, because when I was talking to Biko, I was saying to myself, I said, "You guys are an anomaly. I just don't know if another team can pull this off. A 32 city tour, playing, everywhere from Savannah down to all the way out to Rancho Cucamonga. I mean, I never would have thought a team could pull something off like that, but they managed to do that. They're coming out here to Indianapolis. I'm hoping to be out there for the game. I already have some of my friends asking me to buy tickets, or if I
Dude, you
can.
got to get them.
Yeah.
You got to get them. You got to be there. I mean, I heard you ask that question to Biko. I heard you
Mhm.
say, how does it live up to the hype? And all I can tell you is it's better
It's
because
better on the
I
road.
was I was a fan, right? Like I like you, like a lot of people that are watching it. I was a fan. I was watching from afar and I saw the videos and I was enamored with it. And I hadn't even seen a game. And when I met them, I actually reached out. I got a hold of Jesse. This was last year while I was doing my first season with the Tortugas. And I so desperately wanted to get to a game in Savannah. I managed to get tickets for my family and I for one game. And I just reached out. I said, hey, I read your book. I love everything you guys are doing. And he and I emailed a little bit and I said, I'll be in town for this. I said, I don't know if you need anybody, but I am an announcer. I work. And if you need something, let me know. And he goes, actually, we might need something.
Okay.
And like, he's like, I want you to enjoy the game, but if you want to do something with us, you're welcome to come try it out. And I was like, are you kidding me? Absolutely. And so I got to be in the show, but then just go enjoy it. And I've never seen my kids, my wife, and we go to, I mean, I've hosted myself over 1,000 events in just the 7 years I've been doing anything in entertainment. So they are around fun stuff all the time. I've never seen them have that much fun at something. And I see that from people every night. you walk in with expectations and they're high, but when you're there, man, you can't describe it like words, audio. You have to be there. And so I think the fact that we're going to all these cities, it just gives that opportunity to so many people to experience that with us. And I never hear a bad word, not from anyone. If you have a pulse, you are going to enjoy this. That's
Yeah.
just the bottom line.
Yeah, I know Biko was explaining how people arrive there early and there's activities going on there. I know the St. Paul Saints do things like that before their games. I remember those. I going to those games are a lot of fun too. There's a lot of activity happening there, and they have a lot of characters running around the stadium, and the fans are the stands are packed. They have a lot of local food. They have like a pregame parade. But yeah, banana ball to a lot of folks here. It's like the biggest thing that has hit us in years. And here it is coming to Indy. It's coming up to Milwaukee. It's going out to Houston and Sugarland. I'm just, I'm still amazed. And I know there's other teams that say, hey, we want to do it just like the Bananas. We want to have that type of atmosphere, but it's got to take a lot of work. And I'm
For
just,
sure.
how hard is it? Does Jesse ever sleep? I mean,
I don't think he does. I'll be
no, I
very
can't
honest with
imagine.
you.
This guy's probably just up right now, just jotting down ideas on what to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact that he wakes up very early every single morning and takes at least an hour for himself. He exercises. He usually runs at least 5 or 6 miles. I know he writes down 10 ideas every single day. I know that he, does a little bit of meditation and all that stuff. And this is just all part of his
Meditation. Wow.
just his yeah. I mean, it's he does something called the Miracle Morning, or at least that's where he took the inspiration from a guy named Hal Elrod. And I read that book this summer, and it's a difference maker. If you're somebody that's kind of looking to get a hold on things in your life, I do recommend it. But that's Jesse starts his day with that every day, and then he goes full tilt boogie in one of his 7 yellow tuxes the entire day. And then on game days we go till late. He's up till late, and then he wakes up the next morning and does it all again. The man, he's an alien. I don't know. I don't know how he does it, because I need sleep, and I work. I thought I worked a lot, but
Yeah, no. I like I said, this is not my full-time gig. I'm a teacher. I coach soccer. There's days I'm up at 6 o'clock and I don't come home till 10 after a game, if it's a road game, depending on where it is. And
same. I'm a
and I
teacher as well. That's
and, yeah,
that's
and I,
the day job, and
yeah,
then
and
there's
I
the
go
night
right to
job.
bed. So what do you teach?
I'm a high school history and social studies teacher. So I teach world history and psychology, but I actually used to be a college professor. That's where the whole name
Okay.
comes from.
Yeah, and where were you? Was it Southern Illinois?
No, well, I did my master's there in Southern Illinois,
Okay.
but when I moved to Florida is when I started all the teaching.
Yeah. Okay. And how's the demand for teachers out there?
There's a tremendous shortage, so
Yeah.
I guess it's good for us. But you get it. What grades do you teach?
I'm a special ed teacher at the high school. I was co-teaching math. Now I'm in geography. So this is my
Okay.
first time in the social studies department.
Well, that's a little different.
It
You go from math to geography.
Well, what happened was at my former school, I was a reading special ed teacher. So I was doing
Gotcha.
Read 180. I was helping these kids with their Lexile scores. I come over to the new school, the new district, and it's like, well, we need math teachers. I'm like, okay. So I did that for about 6 years, 7. Next thing I know, well, we're going to pull you out. We're getting rid of co-teaching in math. We're going to set that up differently. We're going to give you just a resource classroom all day. So I'm in a room all day with maybe 5, 6 kids a period, helping them with their homework. Some kids needed my help. Some kids didn't. Some kids, you couldn't help them at all. So I just talked to my department chair and I said, I wouldn't mind being in social studies just because I've always had an interest in that. So then a few months later, she's like, okay, we'll put you in geography. And I love it. I love it better than math. I mean, math is fine, but if it, I had kids that could never pass math. At least with geography, you can explain things to them a little bit better. If they're failing, it's because they're not really putting in the effort or not in
How
the
much of that do you
classroom.
see? Because that's what I see constantly, and it drives me
Yeah,
it
no,
drives
no,
me bananas, to use
yeah,
to stay on topic here.
it drives me crazy too because we had a project where the kids had to take This is odd talking about my actual job on this podcast, but that's fine with me.
Wherever the road
Yeah,
takes us,
wherever
it's
the
all
road takes
baseball
you. I'm like,
related.
wow, we're talking teaching. Well, we had this one there's one assignment, and it's been created for a few years. You were an owner of a soccer team, and it was in the MLS, and you had to place it in a city of your choice that didn't have a team, and you had to look up on online, three positive reasons to put the team there and one negative. You had to create a logo that had something to do with the city. So a lot of kids picked Indianapolis. They said, well, we already support the Colts. We've hosted the Super Bowl. We have 2 million people in the area. Our crime rate is low compared to some other cities. They came up with some names, and you modeled the work for them. You gave them examples. You gave them sheets to follow that were visual. And it's like they worked on it. They didn't work on it at home. They didn't stay after to get after school tutoring, and it just was frustrating because it wasn't that difficult of a project. And then we jumped into another project, and then it's the same thing. You explain what they had to do. They had to design a new development for a piece of property they bought. And I told them Friday we present, Thursday, come after class, come after school and get help because the next day we're presenting. I had 2 or 3 kids. I'm not finished yet. What do you mean you're not finished? We're
Yeah.
about to start it right now. So, and who knows what the reason is? I don't know what some of these kids' lifestyles are like when they get home, but
You
that's
know what,
frustrating.
man?
It's frustrating.
I'll tie it to what we're here to talk about. And I think a lot of it is just a reflection of what the culture is right now. I think it's this: I want as much entertainment as quick and fast and at my
Yeah.
fingertips as possible. And that's challenging in the classroom, and it's challenging in baseball right now. And I think everyone is seeing that because, fan engagement and fan attendance, like those are things that are on the decline largely across most sports, and baseball in particular, because baseball is a very methodical game, right? It's a game of intelligence, and there's a lot of back and forth. It's like a chess match with bouts of action kind of sprinkled in throughout. And the attention span that kids and just people, our culture has these days, is not there, because it's this TikTok generation. It's this immediate, you have the most entertaining, incredible things on your phone, in your fingertips, right there at your disposal. So the rest of the world might as well be a black and white television when you've been watching everything in 3D. And it's tough to engage kids for us as teachers, and it's tough for baseball. But why something like the Bananas works is because it's like being inside of the internet, and it's happening all around you. And I think that's goes back to what you were asking about before, why another team could not do what the Bananas do. It's because they're hitting everything. And when you get a chance to go to the game, you'll see it, because from the minute you get out of your car, and I know that was the question you asked Biko, you're like, you get out of your car, what do you see?
Yeah.
That's when it starts, because you can feel the excitement in the crowd of just fans just standing in line. We've got a DJ out there, so he's playing music. So we're already kind of priming you for fun from the minute you walk up. I mean, how many places do you go where you sit in line, where you stand in line and there's something fun going on? Very few, I dare say. So when the Bananas do it, and from the second you get in, when 6 o'clock hits and we start that pregame ritual for an hour, it's nonstop. There's about 40 promotions before the game even starts, and the guys are doing TikTok dances in the middle, and you've got the Man Nana, the dad bod cheerleading squad, running and dancing throughout the stands. You've got the Banana Nanas, the granny dance squad that's out there. You've got magicians, you've got dancing umpires,
Stilts, right?
You've got mascots, you've got stilts, you've got, and every pitch there's a sound effect or a song or something to sing to. It is a nonstop, overwhelming sensory bombardment, and people love it because it doesn't allow them that chance to get bored. It doesn't let them just feel like, oh, I don't want to do this, I could be doing something better. In the classroom where we're at, man, we can't keep up with these phones and these computers. No. We act like we're doing these kids a favor by giving them all these computers and all this technology, but all they're able to do is tune us out. And it's going to take a lot of work on the teaching end, and baseball needs it too. But the Bananas are one of those teams, one of those businesses really that are capitalizing on the way people are consuming entertainment, and they're using it to develop a game and a sport and grow love and a fan base like nothing I've ever seen before.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And like you said, you have to go to Bananas game to see it. And that's the key there. People are like, I love this logo, I love the name, I've seen them on TV. I've heard about their games. That's the thing. We hear about the games. We hear what goes on there.
It's
It's like,
everywhere.
yeah, it's this mystery. Like here in Indianapolis, the Indians do quite well drawing people. I mean, I don't know how many they drew this year, but there's been years they've drawn close to 9,000 people. So, 8,500. They finished top in AAA, up there with Charlotte. Uh, they do a great job. Are they hitting you over the head with every type of sound effect or whatnot? No, but it's just people love going to games there. It's repeat customers. People know what they get. Could the Indians do a little bit more? Perhaps. Do they have to? No, I've been to games when there's 12, 13,000 people there. That's incredible for a AAA team to attract.
Is that a T-shirt night, or is that one of those,
It's
Star Wars night or that sort
yeah,
of thing?
it could be. I think when I went there, it was a Friday night fireworks. Something like
Okay,
that.
that's one that families
Yeah,
gravitate towards. It's a
they
cheap night
gravitate.
out.
And one thing I like about Victory Field is that you sit in the grass. You can bring out a cooler. It has to be a certain size, certain width.
That's cool. A lot of places don't let you do
You
that.
bring your own food. You can't bring alcohol, but if you're there with kids, you bring out the type of food they like, crackers and you know, uh, sandwiches. I don't know what you're bringing in as. Some
Some
people bring out
goldfish,
goldfish,
throw it.
crackers,
Yeah,
meats, cheeses, a couture bar, a charcuterie table.
there you go.
Yeah, you bring out things like that. A buddy of mine brings out like beef jerky, brings out deviled eggs, pulls out, if you go with like 5 people, everybody brings a cooler of something, and then you go grab a beer. You grab a Sun King or you grab a wine slushy. You grab something else. So I kind of like that. And yeah, you're right. A lot of places do that. So if you're a family, here I bought my ticket, I paid for park. I don't have to get any food for the kids. Maybe I buy a couple beers, $20 total. Yeah, it's a cheap night, and you just get to hang out there and socialize with fans. I think that lawn seating out there is just probably one of the best lawn seats I've seen at any ballpark, because sometimes they're a little bit too steep, sometimes they're too short, sometimes they're too narrow. It's perfect, and I don't think they've changed it since the ballpark opened in 1996. It's quite lovely.
Well, it sounds like a full-on tailgate party out there, almost, with the people
Yeah,
bringing charcuterie boards
yeah,
and got the coolers and stuff. That's a good time.
yeah. It
I
is a
haven't
good
seen
time.
too many ballparks like that, so that's definitely a nice little feature they got going for them for
Yeah, and
sure.
yeah, and that's one thing I know is like when I go to certain ballparks, out in New Jersey, when I go home, I'll check out Somerset and Trenton. These ballparks are not wraparound, so everything is just squashed between the two foul lines.
Right.
And I'm thinking like, you guys are going to explode at the seams. Like you got to figure out a way to make this stadium a little bit bigger. And I know Trenton has the parking lot, and then it butts up to the Delaware River, so that could be an issue. And then Somerset, edges out to the train tracks, so that could be an issue. But there's like a lot going on there. But yeah, it's just not wraparound. You got to give some breathing room.
Well, I mean, it depends on how many fans they're attracting. If that works for
Oh,
them,
oh yeah,
then it's
yes, yeah. Well, I don't know how Trenton does anymore since they're not a Yankee affiliate, but both clubs are attracting good 4 or 5,000 people a game. Somerset has always drawn well. They've been one of those few independent teams that can really kick some butt and draw a nice crowd, and that's probably one of the reasons why the Yankees left Trenton. They're like, yeah, we're going to go to Somerset. Bye, Trenton. Your clubhouse ceilings are too small, apparently.
yeah. That was part of the criteria
Yeah,
for
part of the criteria.
some of the reasons they shifted every. It's amazing we made the cut, and I think the reason the Tortugas did is because the color barrier in baseball was broken, not in Brooklyn. It was broken in Daytona Beach,
Yeah.
because the year before Jackie went to the major leagues, he played in the minor leagues. He played for the Montreal Royals, and Montreal Royals, their spring training was held in Daytona Beach. So the
Yes.
first time he ever played an integrated game of baseball, him and another guy on the team at the time by the name of John Wright, who was a pitcher, they suited up in Daytona Beach, and it was the only city in the South that was going to allow them to do it. And so our history and the fact that we're still there and that we've committed to making some alterations and changes to kind of make it a little more player friendly is the reason that Daytona got to stick around. But you're right. Like, unless the ballparks have kind of certain amenities and certain
that fans are not seeing. It's gonna be for
right,
players, it could
right.
be batting cages, coaching, changing rooms. But yeah, getting back to Jackie Robinson, I remember there's a ballpark in Sanford, and I think there was I don't know if it was him or Willie Mays. I think one of the guys were not allowed to play there,
Jackie
and
wasn't. They
Jackie
were
wasn't.
originally supposed to play there, and Sanford was like, no.
Okay,
Jacksonville also said no. But
it's a shame.
Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, who's the founder of Bethune Cookman University, that's here, historically Black College University. Her parents were both slaves. She went into politics. She was in the cabinet for FDR in the
Okay,
1940s. So she was a huge civil rights advocate before there were any civil rights advocates. I mean, this is before the civil rights movement in the 60s. Some might say that this is one of the things that really kind of kicked it off. But she was a huge beacon of light and hope to kind of allow that thing to happen. So she's the reason Daytona was that city,
okay,
whereas Sanford, Jacksonville, they were still shut off. In fact, those teams, when the Royals would go play, they would cancel their road games. They would forfeit them just to not let them play there. But then Daytona was selling out, and then the next year everybody was selling out to see them because I guess it was such an attraction to see a mixed ball club that a lot of those guys wound up shooting themselves in the foot and losing out on money too. So I guess that's what you get when you play ignorant games like that.
yeah, and it's just unfortunate. That's what people thought back in the
Sure.
1940s, and I'm glad. I don't know. It's amazing that those ideas were going on. Even owners saying, "Well, we don't want some of these great African American players on our baseball team." Some of these owners would see Negro League games at their own ballpark. They would see the crowds. They must have known about Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson and Cole Papa Bell and Larry Doby playing the way they played. You know, like I want that guy on my team. I want to win a pennant. I want to beat the Yankees. I want to beat the Dodgers. But
I got to learn so much about the Negro Leagues this year. I mean, working for with the Tortugas, and we're so interwoven with all the Jackie Robins and stuff, especially, I mean, even across all the minor league baseball this year, they had the 9 nights at all the affiliated ballparks. And the reason that's called the 9, that was Jackie's number when he played in the minor leagues. He wasn't 42, he was number
okay,
9. So that's what he played for. So on Jackie Robinson Day, instead of 42, our guys have always worn number 9 because that's what Jackie wore in Daytona.
okay, good.
So
Never
I,
knew
I
that.
got to learn there, but a lot of the places that we went with the Bananas on this last tour, which we only did 8 cities, but we played at a lot of these old ballparks. We went to Golden Park in Columbus, Georgia, which, Jackie played there and a lot of other guys played there. We
Rickwood,
got to we got to go to I mean, obviously we were in Daytona, and then
Rickwood,
we went to Kansas City, and we
yeah,
went to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. In fact, if you watch the last episode of Banana Land on ESPN Plus, Bob Kendrick, who's the president, he's the main man over there. He gave us a private tour, and you got to learn so much about all those guys. Like, it really is incredible. And it almost felt like we were on this weird kind of taking inspiration from the Negro Leagues barnstorming style this entire tour. That vibe was there because
hmm
even Grayson Stadium, where the Bananas call home, was one of those places where these guys played once upon a
yeah. No,
time.
you're right.
So that's what's cool about this upcoming tour is the Bananas are not just hitting these huge, really cool, really nice brand new ballparks. We still love old ballparks, and we still love the history of the game, and to be able to bring something new to those places that have been there so long and have seen so many people, it's just a really, really cool thing to kind of introduce that element.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And you guys went to Rickwood, which is 1910 it was built. I got to see the Rickwood Classic there. I was
Did you
able to
get
talk.
goosebumps when you went in? Because I did.
Yeah, it's well, I had been there a few times before where there was just high school or youth games going on. But yeah, it's quite the spectacle. When you were there to see an actual minor league game and you saw the crowds and you saw the former Negro League players getting bussed in and sitting in one section, you get a chance to talk baseball with them. Yeah, it's incredible. It is one of the best experiences I've had because not much has changed at that ballpark. It is still very reminiscent of that era, and thank God they never knocked it down. What a shame
Oh
that would have
man,
been. What a
you ain't
shame.
kidding.
Yeah, and there's a video of me from one of my first visits. I'm walking on the roof because you can go up on the gazebo above home plate. And I decided to walk all the way down first baseline towards the outfield wall. I'm up there just talking, shooting a video, and somebody comes up there and says, "Yeah, you're really not supposed to be up here. This roof isn't stable." And then I think a year later, they had to shut the stadium down and repair the roof. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I could have fell through the roof and killed myself. But
I went up there in that gazebo
yeah,
just to take it all in.
yeah,
It's
it's
special place, man. And we're going out there again. And we had 10,000 fans last year, and
mhm,
I'm sure we'll do it all again. So, I mean, anybody listening, if you're looking for a game to go to that
yes,
kind of pays tribute to also the history of baseball, man, come on out there, because that's that place. I think just to see that facility and understand what it means. It's the oldest ballpark in the world for
it
baseball.
is. Yeah, yeah.
You got, and the vintage signs are out there, all the old
The vintage
advertisements from way
sign, the old
back.
scoreboard. I mean,
Ah,
you could,
beautiful.
I think they even have the original wall
Yeah,
behind
it's
the
back behind it.
behind it,
It's
and you're thinking,
it's so far.
it is so far, but nobody was thinking about hitting home runs back in 1910 like that. It was all
And
about
it's like stone. It's
triples.
like
Yeah,
concrete too. It's
it's
wild.
concrete, and there's like a marker on there, and you're like, what the heck? And even the scoreboard, there's this very narrow ladder. There's this ladder that goes up this narrow landing, and you walk around on it. And I walked on there too, and I got yelled at because I wasn't supposed to be there. And yeah, I got yelled at.
Ask forgiveness,
Yeah,
not permission.
I got asked a few times to stop, going places at Rickwood that I wasn't supposed to. But I mean, I was just so excited being out there that I couldn't help myself. But yeah, tons of fun. Now with the World Tour, are you going on the road with to most of the games, if not all? How's
I'll
that
be
looking?
honest with you. I haven't had conversations leading into this next one. My understanding is yes, but until we have those chats, I don't have
Yeah,
definitive answers. The scope and the scale of this tour
yeah, it's
is
pretty huge.
considerably bigger and longer than last year. Like last year, I was able to save just enough days off to not actually, take any unpaid days from school. I had just, oh man, I like to
It
the
worked
minute
out
I
well.
had just enough.
Yeah,
So this year it might look a little different. I'm not sure, but I've told Jesse this, and just all the people in that organization. I know you've gotten to talk with some of them. I will follow those guys to the ends of the earth. It
mhm.
is the most fun I have had doing anything, and it feels like we are on a rocket ship headed straight for the moon. And I hope they will continue to have me be a part of it, because I have such a blast doing it. And getting to bring that experience to that many fans, and fire them up and get them excited about this cool thing. If they will have me, I will go far and wide, coast to coast, you name it. I will be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was telling Biko, I said, I think you guys are going to be playing in Japan or Australia one day. The rate you guys are
I
going.
see Australian
Yeah.
people on all their TikTok posts, and like they are clamoring for this. So I've heard whispers about cruise ships and other weird stuff. I mean,
Cruise
Jesse's
ships.
got some funky ideas of like where we can take this. And if it's normal, we do the opposite. So this year, I mean, as much as this past year was really an experimental year to see if this works, we sold out every city we went to.
Yeah,
This
that's
next year,
impressive.
32 cities, we're really going to see what this thing can do. And I think we are just barely breaching the surface of where this thing is going to go.
Yeah, because I had a podcast with Regan Wood. He's the owner of the Auckland Tuataras of the Australian Baseball League. He says he knows Jesse. He's been in conversations with him. So,
I'm
uh,
not surprised. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
Jesse was just at Fenway Park 2 weeks ago having conversations with those guys. I mean, the fact of the matter is we're just not ready in 2023. But
mhm.
I know this, we are planning on ramping it up and getting ready to thrill 30, 40,000 fans at a time. So I think you're right. I think it's a matter of time before this show really hits the road, and world tour really means the world.
Yeah, no, you're right. And like you said, we had Negro League, the Indianapolis Clowns used to tour, the House of David. Of course, you have the Harlem Globetrotters. Everybody compares them to that basketball team. So yeah, it's common. It's not something that's new. Teams used to barnstorm. The Chicago Bears, when they first got Red Grange, uh what did a tour themselves out on the West Coast to showcase their team and market their brand. Hallis was definitely on top of that as well. So these are just great minds thinking the same way. But yeah, banana ball taking over the world. I see people with shirts. I see people with hats. It's obviously when you see someone with a banana hat, you make conversation with. So
Do you have
it's
one yet? Do you have any good banana gear yet?
no, I don't have any gear yet. I have
Dude,
not.
you got to get you some. You
I
look good in yellow.
Yeah, I have scoped it out. There's with me with caps. I used to buy a lot of caps, and I realized, my goodness, I'm paying like 35, $40 sometimes for a cap, and then
Now they're more, yeah.
now they're getting higher. But one thing about the bananas is they don't charge you shipping and handling, which is
Nope.
nice. So, and then me, I'm kind of picky with hats. Like, this is a Weimer Hormiga hat that I'm wearing. The team just folded. They're in the Pecos League. And I bought the hat at the game, and there was an Austin Weirdos cap that has like this very colorful brim. It's probably one of my favorite hats that I own. And it's just like I have to try the hats on first. Sometimes when I buy a hat, like I've bought a hat from Visala Rip Rawhide. I bought a hat from Trenton in the mail. I put it on. It looks dumb on. It just doesn't fit me well.
Yeah.
It's too small. It stretches out. It doesn't have that type of
The brim and the
yeah.
crown, like yeah. I mine I have such a huge head.
Mhm.
I wear a size 8 fitted.
Yeah.
So there's only limited options for me anyway, and they're only like 2 vendors. So if I can find one that's, a lampshade that fits my big noggin,
Yeah. No.
I've pretty good confidence that it's going to look the way I want it to.
Yeah.
But I know what you're saying.
No, you're absolutely right. So it's like if I can go, like if I go to like the hat store and I can try on a hat, I can say, okay, that looks good. I'll buy it. But if it's something I'm getting online, I'm like, oh, do I make the purchase, then return it?
I'm
Amazon's
telling you,
not.
those yellow jerseys look good. They look real good.
Oh
Sharp.
no, I do look good in yellow. My wife always tells me that. So
See if I have any
you
in
have a.
I
Oh,
got I got
yeah, I see something there.
I got
There you go.
there's this one,
Nice.
there's options for you.
Yeah, no, I
There's good
like that.
stuff.
I like that design there. They did a nice job, because I remember when they came up with that name, I just thought it was silly and idiotic, and I'm like, oh, that's the logo. Okay, that's nice. I like
It's
that.
Dan Simon. I mean, Dan
Yeah, Dan
Simon of
Simon.
Studio Simon, who does some of the best logos in all of baseball,
Sock
between him
Burlington,
and Brandios.
yeah, Burlington sock puppets.
Yep. He does the Tortugas as well. Dan Simon did our logo, and that was a huge favorite. That was like the rebrand of the year back in
Mhm.
2015. Dan does tremendous work, and it's a brand that is recognizable and really getting out there now. It's weird to see. I mean, I'm telling you, every single game we had in Daytona, I saw someone wearing a Bananas hat or shirt or something. Every game the entire year. I mean,
Now,
yes, they came to Daytona, but that's a lot of people. That's a lot of games to see people wearing something from a team that's not really from there.
yeah. Now you said that's a 3-hour drive between the two cities.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
3 hours for me from my house, because I'm about 35 minutes north of Daytona where I live.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
3 hour shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know, yeah, Paul Caputo, who has the Baseball by Design, he's had stories about the Tortuga cap. So I think they're the only turtle logo now in minor league baseball.
Yes.
Now that Beloit
Yes.
changed branding.
Yeah, they're the Sky Carp now. They were the
Sky Carp.
Snappers. So yeah, we are the only current minor league affiliated turtle mascot team, and we've got some cool stuff. Like I love our gear. I mean, I've got tons of hats and stuff for the Tortugas as well. It's just I mean, I love so many of the brands in my. I have about 30 different hats here in the closet with me from all kinds of teams. I mean, if it's got a funky logo, I've got a Rocky Mountain Vibes hat here. I've got Modesto Nuts. I've got Trash Pandas. I've got all the good stuff. I don't have a Disco Turkeys yet. I'm working on it.
No, yeah, that's the thing. It's like if I want to buy these hats, man, that's investing a lot of money, and sometimes I'm
Yeah,
like, is it worth it? I remember I tried on a Burlington sock puppets hat. It was like the tricolor cap. It just didn't look right on me. And I'm like, okay,
right.
I'm not gonna wear this cap. And I'm more of a fan of like a dark color cap, all one colors. But I've been branching out, getting the trucker caps, and I'm more of a flex fit guy. Yeah, Hillsboro Hops. They had a
You see
certain
their
type.
Marvel logo today?
Oh, I didn't see the Marvel logo
Yeah.
today.
Oh, the Marvel logos that have been coming out are cool. I can't
I
wait to see the Daytona one, but the
I
Hillsboro Hops looks cool. That one's cool.
I did see the lug nuts, Lansing lug nuts. That looks pretty sick. I'm like,
They
okay,
were cool.
they did a
The
good job. The wind surge in Wichita, I liked
Yep.
how that looked.
I saw the Danville Otterbots are pretty angry with the Syracuse Mets, because the Syracuse Mets logo looks a little Otterbot-ish. So they're a little
Really?
salty. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, I can see why they say that. It's a little Iron Man-esque, so it looks a
okay.
little bit like the Otterbots. And they've been having a little fun on Twitter with that.
Oh, really? Okay, I gotta
Bad
look that
blood,
up.
man. Bad blood.
Yeah, and the Autobots, that's they're a type of team that would welcome any kind of attention to them.
Oh,
Like,
sure. I got to go there this summer. That was a cool little ballpark, but little. Like it's a small town,
oh, you're
small little
right. It
spot.
does look like the Otterbots.
Yeah. Yeah. Otterbots were so when the Mets lost, while you and I are sitting there pouting about it, the Otterbots were like, we're just gonna leave this here. Like that's what you get, kind of thing.
Oh my! That does look like the Otterbots. Yeah, no, yeah. I did Otterbots last year, and I did Burlington as well, and I love Burlington. That's another old ballpark, another great vibe. They are incredible with making that Saukville, USA connection, and as soon as you park the car, people are greeting you. I didn't see a parade, but I definitely had a lot
Look,
of
you can
fun
only
there.
do so much.
Oh, you can do
Yeah.
so much. Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, we would have about 5 mascots running around, but a mascot outfit could cost anywhere up to $5,000 for a nice
Yeah,
one.
it's a
And
lot of money.
yeah, it's a
People
lot of
don't
money.
understand.
Yeah, no, and because I remember when I worked for in Cincinnati, a professional soccer team in '03, back when you know soccer was run on a shoe budget. Yeah, we were looking for a mascot, and I think back then it was about $3,000 for we wanted a
God
hawk
only knows what it
mascot.
is now.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't know how great it was going to look, but yeah, a little bit out of our budget. I don't know why we thought it was going to be less, but so uh
It's not like going to the costume store. It's a little
no,
different.
no,
Yeah.
no. If you can get, if you can get a mascot on the cheap, but then you have to have ones that have areas where you can stick areas to breathe, to cool down, one that's not going to stink, then you're going to have to clean it. So that gets dry cleaned. I don't know where you take that
It's a
to.
rough life for a mascot.
It's a
I only
rough
dressed up
life.
as a mascot one time,
Me
and
too.
uh
Me
and it
too.
was and I did the worm on the field in Jacksonville, actually, at the Jumbo Shrimp Stadium
Mm,
for the college I was working for. I was our Eagle mascot and
okay.
ran
Yeah,
out
no.
there, and that was the highlight. That was the first time I ever signed an autograph too. And I didn't
No.
know, like, what I forgot what my guy's name was, and some kid just hands me a ball, and I was like, oh, I guess this is what we're
Yeah.
I've never signed a baseball, and I've
Well,
never signed it as whatever character I am right now. So
no,
let's
no,
figure
I
this out.
yeah, I see mascots signing autographs all the time now. Like that's a thing. I've
Yeah.
seen Rowdy, who's the mascot in the Indians in Indianapolis. I've seen the mascots up in the Chicago Dogs. They sign autographs. I mean, the kids love these guys. Sometimes they love them more than the players, but that's part
Split
of the
signs him.
charm.
Split usually the mascot for the man. He usually he puts a big smiley face and like throws it at the kid. Split's kind of a bully. Have you seen how jacked he is? He's the
He
most
is
jacked
jacked.
banana
Yeah, yeah.
ever.
I want to test his urine. I don't see if he's on any
High levels of potassium.
high
High
levels of
levels of
potassium.
potassium.
All right. Hey, this was a lot of fun, Professor. I appreciate you coming on here. If you could come to Indianapolis, let's meet up.
Brother, you got it. If I'm there,
Yeah,
it's a date. A couple Jersey guys getting together. Sounds good.
yeah, sounds good. And we could talk about banana ball. I could tell you where you can get a good slice of pizza here. We'll be set. We'll be set. So where can people find you if they're not at a Daytona or Savannah game online?
If you're on the Twitter machine, you can find me at Young Professor G. TikTok and Instagram, it's at MG the Young Professor. And if you're on Facebook or just looking for me on YouTube somewhere, it's just the Young Professor. Pretty easy to find.
So you have a YouTube page as well.
Oh man, I got it all, brother. You can't get this far doing what I do without all that stuff. So
All right, we'll look you up. And I guess before you go, now that it's the off season, what are your obviously you're teaching, but do you have any plans that are not baseball for announcing?
sure. I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff coming up. I just did some MMA this weekend. I got a few
Okay.
more of those left this year, some pro wrestling as well. But I also work collegiate basketball, and we're getting ready to start that season for the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University,
Oh,
the Eagles. So
nice.
men's and women's basketball. I get to keep putting on the suit all winter long and get some air conditioning. So I'll
Yeah.
take it.
So it's never an off season for you.
Never. Got to keep
Never.
it going.
I hear you. All right. Well, thank you, Professor, for coming on here. That's the Young
My
Professor. Check him out online and check him out at Savannah Bananas game, Daytona Tortugas as well. You definitely will notice him. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, brother, my pleasure, man. This was fun.
Take care. All right. Let me. All right. That was the Young Professor. The Young Professor. He's from New Jersey. He's from Rahway. I'm from Colonia. Those are two cities that border each other. He's a Met fan who doesn't remember the 86 team because he was born that year. And I was 9 years old at the time and remember it quite well. So what a great conversation with him. My goodness. I just thought he was a Daytona Tortuga guy, and we're just going to talk about the Tortugas. He throws in the bananas. I'm like, good Lord, I got a guy who's connected with the bananas. So great voice too. That guy has like that radio voice. You know, he can do like Kraft macaroni and cheese commercials. You know, you want to eat this. So yeah, and he's a student. He's a high school teacher like me in the social studies department. He got his start in arena football like I did. We didn't really talk too much about combat sports, MMA, wrestling. Sorry, Dan. That's another show. Get him on your podcast because I'm sure he'll have a lot to say there. But yeah, once again, Banana Ball. You can't escape it. I was not planning on talking about Banana Ball, but we did talk a little bit about Banana Ball here. So great to have him on here. I hope to meet up. I hope to meet up with any of these guys I host. Some of them don't live that far away from me. Some of them will be in Indianapolis for various reasons. And I hope we can meet up and just, talk baseball, who wouldn't want to do that? So anyway, guys, thank you for listening and checking out the podcast. I appreciate you taking some time to listen, whether it's in the car, at home, or at work. The Ballpark Hunter gives you light, easy listening podcast for the baseball fan. So until next time, folks, this is Mark the Ballpark Hunter. Check me out on your favorite websites and social medias at Ballpark Hunter, like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and all that good stuff. We'll see you next time. Stay safe. Oh, yeah, and adios.